All right, welcome back to the Top 3 Stoics Compared. I'm Emily Clark, and as always, I'm joined by the ever-thoughtful James Carter. Today, we're diving into the lives and lessons of 3 absolute titans of Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. James, shall we start with the philosopher-emperor himself?
Yeah, let's do it. Marcus Aurelius, he's such a fascinating figure. I mean, here's a guy who's literally running the Roman Empire, and yet he's scribbling down these deeply personal notes to himself. Meditations isn't some grand public treatise. It's more like a private journal where he's wrestling with how to be a good person under, insane pressure.
Exactly. And what I love is how humble he is, despite all that power. He's constantly reminding himself to act with reason, to stay grounded, and to accept whatever life throws at him. There's this real sense of, embracing the fleeting nature of things. He's always talking about how everything passes. Nothing lasts forever. It's almost poetic, isn't it?
Totally. And that idea of living in accordance with nature, he keeps coming back to it. For Marcus, it's not just about, following the rules of the universe, but also about accepting your role, your fate, and doing your duty with integrity. I think that's what makes his reflections so relatable even now.
I actually tried something inspired by Marcus when I was at university. I started keeping a little journal, just jotting down my thoughts at the end of the day. What went well, what I could have handled better, that sort of thing. It really helped me manage the stress of exams and deadlines. I mean, I wasn't running an empire, but it felt like it sometimes.
That's awesome. I think that's the beauty of his approach. It's so personal, but anyone can use it. And I guess that's a good segue into how these Stoics all have their own style, right? So, Seneca. He's a bit different from Marcus. More of a public intellectual, I guess. His letters and essays are packed with advice on, how to deal with anger, grief, even money. He's not just talking to himself. He's writing for people who are trying to figure out how to live well in a messy world.
Absolutely. Seneca's so practical. He's always urging us to examine ourselves, to ask, am I acting with courage? With justice? And he's not afraid to tackle the tough stuff. He talks about loss, setbacks, all those things we'd rather avoid. But he's got this clarity, this way of making philosophy feel, doable.
Yeah, and I remember this story from one of my history classes. Seneca was advising someone who just lost a fortune. And instead of, panicking, he basically says, look, wealth comes and goes. What matters is how you handle it. He's all about using reason to face adversity, not letting emotions run the show. I mean, I'm probably butchering the details, but that's the gist.
No, that's spot on. And his letters to Lucilius, they're brilliant for that. He's always encouraging reflection, self-examination, and, honestly, just being a decent human being. I think that's why his work still feels so fresh. It's not just theory. It's advice you can actually use when life gets complicated.
Right, and he's big on virtue. Courage, justice, temperance. It's like for Seneca, happiness isn't about what you have. It's about who you are and how you act, especially when things get tough.
And that's something we all need reminders of, isn't it? Especially when the world feels a bit overwhelming. Now, Epictetus. He's got such a compelling story. Born into slavery, gains his freedom, and then becomes this legendary teacher. His whole philosophy is about, what we can control and what we can't. It's so empowering, but also a bit confronting, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Epictetus is all about mental freedom. He's like, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That's the core of his teaching. And he's really practical. He tells his students, don't get attached to stuff. Don't let your happiness depend on things you can lose. It's kind of radical, honestly.
It is. And I love how he talks about accepting fate, not in a passive way, but in a way that frees you from anxiety over things you can't change. There's a real strength in that. And his lessons aren't just for philosophers, are they? They've been used in some pretty extreme situations.
Yeah, like Admiral James Stockdale. He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and he credited Epictetus with helping him survive. He focused on what he could control, his own thoughts, his own actions. even when everything else was out of his hands. That's a pretty powerful endorsement of Stoic resilience.
Absolutely. And I think that's what ties all three of these Stoics together. Whether it's Marcus's reflections, Seneca's practical advice, or Epictetus's focus on inner freedom, they're all showing us different ways to live with wisdom and courage, no matter what life throws at us.
Couldn't have said it better. And, we've only scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore with these guys.
Definitely. So, thanks for joining us on this journey through Stoic wisdom. We'll be back next time to dig even deeper. James, always a pleasure.
Same to you, Emily, and thanks to everyone listening. Take care, and see you next time.